So there was one dude who was like, yo, where are the 890 jump missions? I used to like those. They had cool armor at them, right? And then Elliot pops in and says the mission refactor was an absolute huge task that had a ton of hidden complexity and things needed to redo, consider, or just generally tidy up. And, well, I got to say, it feels like it has a lot longer of a way to go, right? It just doesn't feel like it's quite there yet, but it's getting there. We're still having tons of issues with markers not showing up, not updating quickly, and all these things. And the servers being a problem is no longer an excuse, right? So it's obviously going to take a little bit longer. There's a lot of things that have to happen. What I don't like that I'm seeing is that we're adding new mission types, new things like Stave Santin, when we don't have it being, kind of brought back to what we had before, which is kind of a bummer. So, I don't know where the priorities are and what's happening, and I'm not going to claim to understand any of it or even really care. I mean, it really comes down to, just get the job done and get it done as quickly as you can, but as effectively as you can. And however long however long as quickly as possible is, it could be a week, it's not obviously, but it could be a few months or whatever. Let's just get these going. But yeah. So with this, I made a priority list of missions to get refactored first. You will notice a few missions have gone missing. This doesn't mean that they won't come back. We are working through refactoring some of the ones that we didn't get time to do for the first 4.0 release, which are ones like the 890 jump mission and the hijack caterpillar. Some missions might come back with the same name, but play very different as well, as we are using this time to also what? I imagine change the missions. He literally just stopped the sentence. And then, however, not all of the missions are gone. That are gone will come back. And we're still finalizing that list. The reason for this is some of the missions are incredibly old and a product of where Star Citizen was. And at the time of their release, and yeah, we don't consider them fun or to represent the vision that we have for 1.0. However, as mentioned before, some of these missions might come back, just an incredibly different gameplay state. It's all a part of our effort to make fun and engaging content for your player base. Yeah. So we'll have to see. I mean, I don't know what missions you guys liked, but I do want to take this time to talk about missions in general. And I want to go back to that SCL where Elliot talked about missions not really being your main thing that you should be doing all the time necessarily. At least that's their vision for 1.0, that they're going to be narrative and kind of teach you almost, right? And oh, look at that. Lars in chat, who's on the mission team, said, fun fact, I finished the 890 jump refactor just this past week. There you go. So that is actually one that is in the works. And we know the fine young man that is working on it. So that's pretty cool. I like the 890 jump mission. I hope whatever designer gets on it. Who are the enemies on that one? Because they had extremely... Was it shipjackers or something? They had extremely unique armor, which was cool. And I think that was one of the only missions that actually had backpacks on them. Right? They had that cool metal face with the spikes. And that's where you got the screwed up undersuit, which you could buy at Grimhex. And I think the Stitcher backpack or something like that. But yeah, there's some cool loot on that one. There's some cool armor there. And I hope they add loot as well. I don't know what loot. The problem with the current experience is from a design perspective, like loot design, is there isn't any loot in the game really. So we've got this cool thing going on with contested zones where they've added Rate, thank you so much for 6 months, where they've added the tweaker components and things like that, right? But if you take tweakers and you put them everywhere, then it undermines the value of them at CZs, right? So now it comes down to guys like Zach and other designers that are now they need to make this like long laundry list of attachments and harvestables and all sorts of different loot. And that is what a good time we are in right now in comparison to where we were, where we're complaining less about how the missions actually play out and asking for like cool and unique stuff to find at them, right? We're like, oh, okay, well, the missions are cool. Let's get cool stuff at them. Like, remember the old days of going down to a cave? And that's where you got backpacks, right? So it gave cave missions like such value in like 0 to hero runs because there were backpacks at them and there were tractor beam attached. Well, no, I don't think there were tractor beam attachments, but there were. It was the only place to get multi tools outside of buying them at a shop. So if you were doing a 0 to hero, you would do it that way, which is super cool. And yeah, I know tweakers are at bunkers too, and I think what's good about the way they're doing it is tweakers drop at bunkers not that often. They probably drop a little too often, but they're like a guarantee at CZs and rare loot outside of CZs. It makes sense. They're going to come out of the CZs and they're going to be in other places. But I'm just talking about, in general, creating more unique loot at the missions and stuff like that. So that really doesn't have anything to do with the mission refactor. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of what are quests and missions in actual other MMOs for you guys, right? Is it the thing that you do all day, every day? Only when you're leveling. And Star Citizen doesn't really have a leveling experience, right? Because there are no levels. So they're in this really weird place, and we're currently in the weirdest place possible, and we have been since 2.0, where the only content in the game really is done through the mission system. And I really want to see them get away from that as much as possible. It's not that I don't want missions to be relevant. I personally want missions to be super relevant, but it's more relevant for getting things like blueprints or reputation to unlock more parts of the story, things like that, right? Where currently it is, well, the best way to make money. And is getting your Alpha UEC bank account up the leveling process in Star Citizen? It might be. It might be that's what happens, right? Because that's how you buy ships. That's how you unlock new gameplay, things like that. But yeah, it's very interesting on what direction they're going to go. We're in such a weird place. The refactor is the technical side, but what missions actually become and why we do them is something that in the next year, I hope is really clear to us. And Save Stanton, not very narrative, right? So it's narrative on the website with like videos and stuff, but it's not very narrative from a telling a story of the world. I feel like I'm going to an outpost and killing NPCs, but I don't really know why. It's just because I want the rewards. And I personally have always liked questing and reading all the text and things like that, but I don't get that vibe with, I should say in other games I like doing that, but I don't get that in Star Citizen. So I'm just kind of putting this question out there with a little bit of my feelings is, what do you guys want missions to be? Where do you think they're going to go? Once again, Elliot kind of spoiled it for us on what they plan on them being, which is kind of secondary to the sandbox, it sounds like, but not secondary, maybe complementary to the sandbox. And that's what I want to see. That's what I've always wanted to see. Like, if I want to go down the story path, I can. And how I would do it is through questing. But I want 2025, 2026, and beyond to be about the sandbox as much as possible and the tools for us to engage with it, to engage with the world that they have created that is so amazingly beautiful and awesome and just cool, and just make it more interactive and more fun between us and the game world and us together, which would be cool. So you like the down satellite Clovis mission? That was one of the cooler missions they've done. Yeah, I hope to see that one back, and maybe it's a little different, but I hope to see that one come back for sure. Clovis is a character that, out of all of the mission givers, I think Clovis and Rudo were the ones that were the most interesting to me. Who was the one that was at Levski? What was the name of her with the peg leg? Those were the missions that I think I would have wanted to engage with the most. They seemed like they were going to be mining and salvaging missions. What was her name? I'm trying to remember. A lot of people like the Twitch Pacheco missions. That's true. Mission givers. Is this the year for mission givers? Right? Is this the year for mission givers? I hope so. But what do mission givers look like? Recco Battaglia. Yeah, that was her name, Noir. Yep. Recco Battaglia. What does a mission giver experience look like in the next couple years? I hope wildly different from what we had. And I hope it's more like you go and visit them the first time, and then they, like GTA style, call you and give you missions. But it's all acted and voice acted and deep, right? And those missions are really, really highly curated and fun. And those mission chains end with a part of the story and a nice reward at the end. That would be so, so cool. Is that like Cyberpunk? I'm going to start a Cyberpunk playthrough, I think, in 2025. I put it down when it was super buggy at the beginning and never touched it. And I kind of waited for it to get good, and everyone's telling me it's good. So I might jump back into that. But that's what I would love to see out of mission givers. And I think that's what CIG wants to do too. It's just so many things on their plate. What are we going to get? What are we going to get this year? And what do they want to do this year? We'll see. But missions, I hope, are going to start at least looking like that somewhat. But yep. Once again, let me know what you guys think. And here we go. Might be cool.